Have you ever wondered how a neglectful upbringing might shape a man into a narcissist? A question that tugs at the heartstrings of many, sparking curiosity and perhaps even concern. The journey begins by understanding what neglectful parenting is. Picture this, a home where a child's needs are constantly overlooked, where emotional warmth is as scarce as a desert's rain. This is the landscape of neglectful parenting, a barren terrain where the seeds of self-worth struggle to take root. Now imagine a man molded by such a childhood. His name is John, and his story is all too common. John grew up in a home where his emotional needs were ignored, where his cries for attention were met with indifference. His mother, preoccupied with her own struggles, failed to nurture John in the ways he desperately needed. As John grew older, he began to develop certain characteristics, traits that are often associated with narcissism. He became overly self-focused, constantly seeking validation and admiration from others. His relationships were marked by a lack of empathy and emotional depth, a reflection of the emotional void left by his neglectful upbringing. This is the reality for many men like John, men who were shaped by the cold hands of neglectful parenting. And this is the reality for those who cross paths with these men, particularly women who find themselves in relationships with them. The impact of such an upbringing is profound, etching deep lines into the psyche of a man and influencing his approach to relationships. Narcissism, in this context, is not a choice, but a survival mechanism, a way to cope with the emotional neglect experienced during those crucial formative years. It's crucial to remember that behind every narcissist, there's often a story of neglect, a narrative of emotional deprivation that shaped them into the person they are today. By understanding this, we can begin to approach relationships with male narcissists from a place of empathy and insight, while also empowering ourselves to establish healthy boundaries. As we've seen, the roots of narcissism can often be traced back to a neglectful upbringing. This understanding is the first step towards a more compassionate and informed approach to dealing with male narcissists. In the scenes to come, we'll delve deeper into these dynamics, exploring the impact on intimate relationships and offering strategies for coping and seeking support. How does early neglect influence a man's ability to form healthy relationships? Let's delve into this question by examining the concept of attachment patterns. Attachment patterns, in essence, are how we perceive and respond to intimacy and closeness in relationships. These patterns are typically formed during our early developmental years, often shaped by the quality of care and attention we receive from our caregivers. In the case of neglectful parenting, where emotional availability and nurturing are scant, a child may develop what's known as an insecure attachment style. This style can manifest in two primary ways: anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. Imagine a man we'll call John. As a child, John's mother was often absent, both physically and emotionally. This lack of consistent care led him to develop an anxious attachment style. As an adult, John often finds himself in a state of emotional turmoil in his relationships. He's constantly seeking reassurance and validation, fearing abandonment at every turn. This incessant need for affirmation can put a considerable strain on his relationships. On the flip side, consider another man. Let's call him David. David's upbringing was similarly marked by neglect, but in response, he developed an avoidant attachment style. David tends to keep his emotional distance in relationships, often perceived as being aloof or detached. His significant others may feel neglected or unimportant, leading to discord and dissatisfaction in the relationship. These examples illustrate how neglectful parenting can lead to insecure attachment styles in adulthood. However, it's important to remember that attachment styles are not set in stone. With self-awareness, professional help, and a lot of hard work, it's entirely possible to develop healthier ways of relating to others. But the journey towards healthier relationships starts with understanding. Recognizing how early neglect has shaped a person's attachment style can provide valuable insight into their behavior and emotional responses within relationships. The impact of neglectful parenting on attachment patterns can lead to significant challenges in forming and maintaining healthy relationships. But with understanding and compassion, we can begin to navigate these challenges and work towards healthier, more fulfilling relationships. What happens when a child's need for attention goes unanswered? This question takes us to the very heart of a complex dynamic. Picture a young boy, let's call him Jack. Jack's parents are physically present but emotionally distant. This formative experience of neglect can have profound implications on Jack's adult life, shaping his personality in ways that can be challenging for those around him. The lack of attention and nurturing in Jack's childhood may manifest later in life as attention-seeking behaviors. Imagine a young man constantly seeking validation, striving to be the center of attention, or even creating drama to ensure he's never overlooked. This is not mere vanity or arrogance. It's a desperate attempt to fill a void left by a neglected childhood. Now let's explore another side of this coin: empathy, or rather, the lack thereof. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, is a crucial component of healthy social interactions. But for Jack, who never received the empathy he needed as a child, understanding and expressing it as an adult can be a Herculean task. This empathy deficit can manifest in different ways. Jack might appear indifferent to the feelings of others, or he may struggle to recognize and respond appropriately to emotional cues. This lack of empathy isn't always intentional. Rather, it's a product of his upbringing. Jack was never taught to connect with others emotionally because his own emotional needs were largely ignored. So, what does this mean for Jack as an adult? It means he's likely to grapple with forming meaningful relationships. His attention-seeking behaviors might push people away, while his lack of empathy could make it difficult for him to connect with others on a deeper level. Remember, understanding these behaviors and deficits doesn't excuse them, but it does provide a context for why they exist. It's a reminder that the effects of childhood neglect can echo far into adulthood, influencing behaviors and relationships in profound ways. The absence of nurturing attention during formative years can result in attention-seeking behaviors and a lack of empathy in adulthood. Jack's story serves as a stark reminder of this truth. The journey to understanding is the first step towards healing and growth. How does a neglectful upbringing shape a narcissist's approach to relationships, particularly with women? This is a question that can help us better understand the dynamics of intimate relationships with male narcissists who were raised in neglectful environments. Let's take a look at an anonymized case study to illustrate these points. We'll call this individual John. John's upbringing was characterized by emotional neglect, with parents who were disinterested, inattentive, and dismissive of his emotional needs. As a result, John developed a narcissistic personality, marked by an inflated sense of self-importance and a deep need for excessive attention and admiration. In his intimate relationships, John seeks to fulfill these needs. He craves constant validation and appreciation from his partners, often at their expense. His inability to empathize with his partner's feelings, needs, and perspectives stems from his early years of emotional neglect. This lack of empathy can create a significant imbalance in the relationship, leaving his partner feeling unheard, unappreciated, and emotionally drained. Another key characteristic of John's relationships is his propensity for manipulation. He may use subtle tactics, such as guilt-tripping or gaslighting, to maintain control and keep his partner's focus on his needs. These manipulative behaviors are a result of his deep-seated fear of emotional vulnerability and rejection, again, a consequence of his neglectful upbringing. John's approach to relationships is also marked by a lack of commitment and a tendency to devalue his partners. He may quickly lose interest in his partners once the novelty wears off, leading to a pattern of short-lived relationships. This behavior reflects his struggle to form deep, genuine connections due to his neglectful upbringing. Understanding these patterns can help those in relationships with narcissists navigate these challenging dynamics. Remember, it's not about blaming the narcissist for their behavior, but rather understanding the root causes and learning how to protect oneself. A neglectful upbringing can have significant impacts on a narcissist's approach to intimate relationships. By understanding these impacts, we can begin to navigate these complex relationships with more insight, empathy, and strength. How can women navigate the emotional void left by a narcissist's neglectful upbringing? It's a formidable question that begs for practical, empowering solutions. Firstly, establishing healthy boundaries is vital. Boundaries are like personal safety nets. They protect us from harm and define what is acceptable. In a relationship with a narcissist, boundaries might include setting limits on the time spent together, or deciding what topics are off limits for discussion. Remember the story of Jane? She learned to set boundaries with her narcissistic partner, and while it wasn't easy, it was a crucial step towards self-preservation and emotional health. Next, let's talk about building emotional resilience. This means strengthening your ability to bounce back from adversity and maintain your self-worth, even when faced with a narcissist's potentially damaging behavior. It's about cultivating a strong sense of self, independent of anyone else's validation. Picture Lisa, who started practicing mindfulness and self-affirmation to bolster her emotional resilience. Over time, she found herself less affected by her partner's neglectful behaviors. Lastly, seeking support is essential. This can be from trusted friends, family members, or even a professional counselor or therapist. It's important to have a safe space to express your feelings and concerns, and to get perspective on the situation. Consider Sarah, who found solace in a support group for people in relationships with narcissists. That group became her lifeline, providing understanding, advice, and encouragement when she needed it most. In conclusion, navigating the emotional void left by a narcissist's neglectful upbringing is a journey. It's not easy, and it's not quick. But with the right strategies in place, establishing healthy boundaries, building emotional resilience, and seeking support, it's a journey that can lead to empowerment and self-discovery. By understanding the roots of a narcissist's behavior and implementing these strategies, women can empower themselves to navigate the complexities of these relationships.